Hey Christina, my name is Abby DeSerbo and I am one of Miss Lee's friends. And I actually grew up in New Jersey too, but my family and I now live in Houston, Texas. I immigrated to the United States in the late 70s with my family. I was only 2 years old, so I always joke with my daughters that I was one of the OG dreamers, right? Even before DACA existed. And so, yeah, I grew up in New Jersey, went to elementary school, middle school, and high school in New Jersey, and then moved here to Houston. I just wanted to let you know that growing up, I had very similar experiences as yourself. And I think what you're doing is very brave, it's very inspiring, and I want you to continue to use that voice because it is super powerful. It took me years to find my voice, and I think I'm still trying to find it now. And so you've been given this gift, so keep at it. This might actually be the first time I'm talking about this in public, but in the 5th grade, I had a classmate. He had moved to Japan, and then he had moved back with his family like 4 years later, and he had a Filipino nanny. And so I was actually super excited because I thought, hey, this kid, he grew up in Japan, or he, spent a lot of time in Japan. He will, understand me and my culture. But instead, he taunted me. He taunted me every day. He used to taunt me about eating dogs. He used to make fun of my Filipino features, right? He used to make fun of my nose, the flat nose that Filipinos have. And he used to curse at me in Tagalog, which was crazy. And he did this up until middle school. And for a long time, you try to ignore it, but there are times where you kind of just want to crawl in a hole and disappear because you just don't understand why someone could be so mean for no reason. And so I started thinking about my experiences with racism and hate, and I thought, wow, man, have things not changed in the last 40 years? But then I started to think, you know what? I think they are changing because we wouldn't even be having this conversation or this dialogue or have this platform, 40 years ago. So I guess we're just gonna have to keep at it. Okay, and we're going to have to continue to educate people and to continue to share our love and to lift up our people and to make sure that our voices are heard and just continue to get people to see us. And so I just want to thank you for allowing me to share my story and to be part of your story.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm Korean American and I currently live in New York City. I grew up in Jersey City and I moved to East Hanover on the last day of my 3rd grade. It was the suburbs and it was way prettier than Jersey City with, beautiful lawns, and it was just, the sky was clear and there was so much space to play, but it was also the first time I dealt with racism on a regular basis, especially at school. But even just going outside my home, there were racist things and just people chasing me. It was crazy. So, I really hated my life, even though the East Hanover was such a beautiful town. It made me really upset, and I am naturally a confident person, but these nasty words and these nasty actions from strangers, it made me question myself a lot. And it made me more sensitive and angry and hateful and withdrawn. And it took me a long time to be able to handle it from a place outside of anger and hate. I'm 42 and I still struggle with it. I still don't understand why people say and do such hateful things, to me as a stranger, and I still don't know how to cope with it in a healthy way. So I'm happy that Elisa shared your experience and writing with me. It was really encouraging, and I'm sorry that you experienced a sense of unfair otherness. But I love how you're able to create beauty from this and find power and goodness while facing these oppressive words. And I'm so glad you're creating space for this with your classmates and your 8th graders. It's really difficult to talk about this subject, as an adult also, but it's so crucially important. And I wish that I was able to talk about this at an earlier age too, to speak about racism and hateful words. And so, mucho power to you.
Hi, Christina. How are you? I'm Ann. I'm a singer out in Los Angeles, and I just wanted to say thank you for your beautiful poem. I felt it, and I know what that feels like too, so I'm just so glad that you're speaking up for us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Paul. I'm a Korean American. We have a couple of these pieces that are all by Korean American artists. This one was given to me by my dad. Korea is extremely mountainous. This may be a fact that you might not have known. This skateboard was made by a Korean artist named Yoon Hyuk, who does a lot of cool things with lines and dots. This is of a popular skate spot in Brooklyn. And finally, we have this cool picture of skateboarders in Barcelona, taken by our very good friend, Miss Elisa Lee. So one of the things I love about being Korean American is that there is such a deep kind of well of creativity in the arts.
Change comes with change. An exchange with a range that feels motivating, energizing, terrifying, and paralyzing. But I choose not to be in the adjacency of comfort and complacency. To stay the same and feel the pain when you crash upon the shore of change. Confronting the ugly me, there's courage and vulnerability. Believing I can be the change I hope to see in life's uncertainty of the outcome. And how come it's something we resist? Truth is, change and comfort can't coexist. I must be the catalyst, a change agent turned activist. You may laugh at this, but I ain't lying. And damn sure I can't accept not trying. Because no change happens on its own. Nothing ever grows in a comfort zone. I must act and celebrate the fact that I'm built to adapt. Cause change is the only constant in life.
Hi, I'm Sharon, and I'm a Korean American living in the DC, DMV area, and this is my sister. Hello. Your poem really resonates with me, and I'm so thankful that you shared that, and just how vulnerable, but how authentic that experience is. I think I've had a very similar experience growing up as well, and I tried so hard to form my identity around not being only Asian, but more and more I'm starting to appreciate so much the culture, the community, the tradition, and also the perseverance and all the amazing characteristics that come with what it means to be Asian. What about you, Maddie?
I'm just so proud that I can always have a second language that I can talk to with my parents, my grandparents, my family members. And I just love Asian food.
That's right. There's so many things that we love about being Asians that we definitely take for granted. But anyways, yeah, I think that's it.
Hi guys, I'm Joseph. My Korean name is Pogum Lee. I'm Korean American. I was born in Chicago, Illinois. My parents are Korean immigrants. Growing up, I was in some ways not really sure what it meant to be an Asian American, and so I also had my struggles, especially in high school. I remember I was on the golf team, and as a golfer I was surrounded a lot by predominantly white players, and so I think struggled then with my identity. In college, fortunately, I was so lucky. I studied Asian American Studies, and that was actually a minor of mine, and that was so helpful for me, helped me find my identity, helped me figure out who I was, and that gave me so much pride in being Asian American, Korean American in particular. It made me want to get better at the language, and so I started to study Korean again. And it really shaped who I was again and my pride and identity as an Asian American. After college, I was a middle school teacher, and then I went to medical school, and currently I'm actually a pediatrician. I love what I do, and I'm really proud of my heritage and my culture. I'm very involved in the Korean community, and I always tell my patients that I am Korean American, and we always talk about different things about my culture, especially right now with K-pop being so big, or any Korean culture or athletes or movies or things like that. So it's been a really interesting time right now, and again, I think I'm really proud of who I am. And here is my fiance. We're going to get married soon. This is Ethel, and she's going to tell us a little bit about her in a few seconds here.
Hi guys, my name's Ethel Sorio. I was born in Honduras, but I came here when I was 6 years old. So I'm Honduran American. I've always really embraced my Hispanic culture, and especially now I think I'm embracing it more as I learn to cook dishes for us. When I got to college, it was really interesting because, growing up, I didn't really grow up with many Asian friends or Asian people around me. It was a lot of Hispanic or white people. And then when I got to college, I made so many Asian friends. I started to better understand different Asian cultures, including the Korean culture. I actually ended up studying Korean when I was in college for about 2.5, 3 years, which was really cool. And then I even did a study abroad in Korea, which was so fun. And as Joseph mentioned, we'll be getting married soon. So it'll be, I think, a really fun to be able to, have a multi-ethnic household and being able to hopefully one day raise our kids and being able to be proud of their Hispanic roots as well as their Korean roots. But yeah.
And my parents gave Ethel a Korean name, which is?
AANHPI.
All right. I hope this helps. Nice meeting you guys. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey, what's up? My name is AANHPI. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I'm 17, and I'm currently a junior at Layton Tech High School. For me personally, growing up as an athlete, as an Asian American, it wasn't always easy. Growing up in sports, I never really got to see people that looked like me. I would always have haters. I would always have doubters telling me I couldn't play ball, I couldn't do this because of the way I looked, because of who I was. But I never really let that stop me. I never really let that get to my head. And if I just want to say one thing, I just want to let you know that, yeah, you might have some doubters, but you also got a lot of people supporting you. I've also had a lot of coaches, mentors, a lot of friends, teammates, everyone. I've also had a lot of support. So if I just want to leave you with one thing, I just want to let you know that you could do whatever you want, no matter what the haters say, and just use that hate to fuel you and just keep going.
Peace, everybody. My name is Tayo Na, and I'm an old friend of Miss Elisa Lee's, and I'm a musician, educator, writer from New York City, Queens, unceded Lenape Canarsie land, and I wanted to contribute this verse. My friends and I, we just dropped a song. It's on Spotify, all the platforms. It's called We Belong 21. And it's about how Asian American, Pacific Island, Native Hawaiian folks, how we belong and how we don't belong. It's about this struggle of not feeling seen, not feeling heard, not being respected, but at the same time, knowing how we do belong somewhere and knowing how we can stay resilient and stay in our mutual resistance and humanity for each other. All right. We belong to each other, magnitude and bond, black feminist scholarship, indigenous songs, belong at the center like ethnic studies. Be the Robin Hood and invest in us. We live in pleasure acts abundantly. Abolition is healing our suffering. Belong on our purpose to the ones in need, cause if one ain't got it, ain't no one free. I speak from the streets of Lenape Hoking. All my relations need reparations. Power to the people, our disposition. Belong to the land, First Nations, permission, mock tomb. The word that was written when we decolonized. We belong to wisdom, the cry for liberty, the right side of history. Overseeing the bigotry, it's never really finished. See here, even when the smoke is cleared, strong. Even when the hope is gone, we're getting tired of proving we belong. But we keep holding on here, even after all these years, strong. Even when it all went wrong, we're getting tired of proving we belong. But we keep holding on. Thanks, y'all. One love.
Hi everyone, Miss Lee here. Happy Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Month. I hope that throughout this month you were able to learn about a lot of amazing folks in our community. Today I also wanted to highlight some Asian American authors who have impacted my life. The first author is Chang-Rae Lee, who wrote this book, Native Speaker. Not only is he a professor at Princeton University, he's also an award-winning author. And this was the first book that I read where I thought, okay, wow, this character has very similar experiences as mine. And I think after reading this book, I shared with my mom how powerful it was. And so she went out and bought a copy, translated in Korean, and after she read it, we shared, we had some important conversations, and you could see here with the picture where he's wearing a cowboy costume. That's also very telling of my experience growing up, because I wanted to be more American. I wanted to be more white than Asian. And that is really sad now that I look back. And I really wish I would have read his work sooner, but I think that's the power of reading and being able to connect with characters. So, I hope that when you go into high school, you can kind of look him up. He did just come out with another book, but you don't have to be Asian to feel a connection to this experience. Another activist author who has impacted my life is Grace Lee Boggs. And this book, Conversations in Maine, is where she kind of has these conversations with 3 other intellectuals from totally different backgrounds. But they notice that they have a lot in common. And I think that's a really great message, that the more you find in common with somebody, even if they don't share the same background as you, is really important, and that's how you make connections with people. And so I learned a lot from reading her book, but you could see here I have post-its because there's some sections where I'm like, I need to read that over, because she really talks about race, discrimination, injustice, and growing up as Chinese American. That whole experience in itself also was traumatizing, but also empowering. So she was able to kind of use that trauma to empower herself. Another author who's impacted my life, I want to say in the last 5 years, is Min-Jin Lee, who wrote Pachinko. And this story was also pretty amazing and won the National Book Award. And I think she's just really cool as a person. So she's a mom, so she talks about that a lot, and raising her child, and she's really interesting. And I'm really glad that she's making an impact and really amplifying the voice of many Asian American authors right now. So, and recently I read Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. This author, she is half Korean, and I wasn't sure how much I could relate to her because this is a memoir, but I related to her so much. And in fact, I even cried reading this book, and there's only 2 books that made me cry. One was Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson, but this one made me cry because it really made me think about my grandma. And yeah, I felt connected to her. And, all this to say that, my experience as a teacher in Newark has also been quite interesting. I've had students who would say, wow, you speak really good English, right? Because they think that I'm from, I just hopped off a plane from a different country. Or someone actually thought I was working part-time at the Chinese restaurant around the block from school. And so kind of navigating through those conversations was difficult at first, but I'm so glad that I was able to have those conversations in the classroom, because growing up when other students were saying very ignorant things to me and being very racist, oftentimes the teachers would join in on laughing and not really addressing it. And so that was definitely a way of silencing me. So growing up in school, I was more of the quiet, I was more reserved, not really outspoken. And I also didn't speak about it at home because, my parents were working really hard and I didn't want them to feel a certain way, embarrassed. So, I really wish that I had more teachers, more, friends that would be more outspoken about that. But I hope that learning more about the Asian American community, especially in light of all that's happening with, the anti-Asian hate, sometimes just asking your friend if they're okay, or, asking them more about their culture is a way for that person to heal, right? And you'll see that maybe you have a lot more in common. So I really encourage that. And, you know, just like many of the authors that wrote these books, you know, who I'm sure have also dealt with racism, especially in the publishing field, in the book writing field, in academia, you know, that means in college, you know, one's a professor there. So, you know, sometimes the struggle is ongoing, but right, we kind of have to trust in the process. And so I hope that you know, kind of take that action to maybe read more books that are written by authors of color. And if you are unsure of where to look, definitely reach out to Mrs. Jones, who I'm always in contact with. I love Mrs. Jones. We have a lot in common. Or you could reach out to me, Miss Piombo, who's been introducing you to a lot of authors, Asian American authors, who have been sharing very important stories, right? So I hope that, you know, celebrating the wonderful Asian American community doesn't end here, but I hope we continue to kind of celebrate, you know, everyone's culture, right? So thank you for providing this space, and I hope you have a wonderful month left of school. Make it powerful and have fun. Bye. Miss you guys.
I'm here, grew up on the shores of America. Open up shop, ran stores in America. Wash windows, clean floors in America. Only trust me with your chores in America. Just need one open door in America. Cried when we elected 44 for America. My family's here, fought wars for America. I get the memo, this is your America. Just take my money, tax forms in America. Take a food, charge more in America. Use a culture for decor in America. History that you can't ignore. America, I'm the leader I was looking for. America, never silent, keeping score. America, and it's time I needed more.
We're still here, we're going strong, and we're getting tired of proving we belong. We're still here, we're going strong, and we're getting tired of proving we belong. Proving we belong.
We've come a long way, but what's changed? Since Vincent Chin, the difference just names. Xiao Jia Dao, Yao Sun Jia, know these names. Hyun Jung Sun Jung Young, we have names. Victims, silence, evicted from our lives. Cause our skin is the color they love to villainize. But if it's food, movies, or women, they love to fetishize. But if it's COVID-19, then China virus. One generation, two, generation three. To the young generation, you generate me. So T, Tayo, and and Chucky, and anyone that feels like a guest in their country. And everyone has ever lost a body to the struggle. No, you're not alone. I promise all of my people, y'all, we love you when we're here.
We're going strong, and we're getting tired of proving we belong. We're still here, we're going strong, and we're getting tired of proving we belong. Proving we belong.
These hands have washed the clothes, and these hands have served the food heaven knows. And my neck has felt the mob's rope and has been behind barbed wire. My arms have nailed down railroad track, our back has been for hire. And these hands have fought injustice and the soul is still on fire. We belong to each other, magnitude and bond. Black feminist scholarship, indigenous songs belong at the center like ethnic studies. Be the Robin Hood and invest in us. We be living pleasure acts abundantly. Abolition is healing our suffering. Belong in our purpose to the ones in need. Cause if one ain't got it, ain't no one free. I speak from the streets of Lenape Ho King. All my relations need reparations. Power to the people, our disposition. Belong to the land with First Nations permission. Maktub, the word that was written when we decolonize. We belong to wisdom, the cry for liberty, the right side of history. Overstand the bigotry, it's never really finished.
Still here, even when the smoke